This is a short training video on how include files can be used within CodeGen templates. Let's get started. I've pre-configured a very simple environment here where I've set some environment variables to define a repository that I wish to use, and I've also used the CodeGen TPLdir and CodeGen OutDir environment variables to specify the default location for template files and output files, both to be my current directory. I've also created a simple template that we're going to use to demonstrate the use of include files, and the template is called dataclass.tpl. Let's take a look at that template in Workbench, and as you'll see, it's a very simple data class. You may have seen this similar template in several other videos. It produces a class that represents a Synergy repository record. This video is about includes. There are several cases when you might want to include a piece of standard template code into multiple templates to save you having to maintain that piece of template code multiple times in different templates. One very simple example of this is if we consider this file header. Parts of the file header are kind of specific to this template. The name of the file here is going to depend on how this template chooses to name the file. The description might well change between different template files. But there's part of this code which is likely that we're going to want to include in our header section in most, if not all, of the templates that we create. The author, the company name, the date and time in this example. So let's see how we can use a CodeGen include or a template include to achieve that. I'm going to copy that section of code, and we'll go ahead and create a new file, and we'll call this file header.inc. Doesn't really matter what the file's called. I'm going to place it into the same directory as my templates go, which just happens to be the current directory, and I'm going to paste the piece of code that I want to include into that include file. Let's save the file and close it, and now what we can do is remove this code from the original template. And here's how we do the include in CodeGen. There's a generic token called file, and we simply name the include file that we want to include into the template. That's it, simple as that. Now obviously we don't only have to include comments into the header section. We could be including, maybe a list of private fields is something we might want to use somewhere else, so we could place that into an include file and include it. Whatever it is we want to include into the template. Let's take a look at the result if we generate code from there. So let's issue our CodeGen command for the template data class. We'll use our good old structure part. And we need to specify the namespace because there was a namespace token in the template file. So we'll use data classes. And we'll go ahead and regenerate the code. And as you can see, it's created the file. In this case, it's created part.dbl. Let's go ahead and refresh our Workbench view and take a look at the resulting code. And as you can see, our template had the include for the author, company, date, and time. And that information has been included during the code generation process. Very simple. There's one other variation on the theme. When we use the file token, if that file does not exist, then CodeGen will issue an error, as you might expect. By the way, I should also mention that you can actually use environment variables or logical names in here as well. So if I had my file in an includes directory with an environment variable pointing to it, then I could refer to the location of the file in that way too in here. So the file token basically includes a file and it expects that file to be present, and it will generate an error if that's not the case. There might be times when you want to include a section of code if and only if an include file exists. Let's just take a quick look at the CodeGen documentation with CodeGen-docs, and if we look under generic tokens, we'll see here we've got the file token, the one we just looked at, and notice there's also a file if exist token. It basically works the same way as the file token, but if the include file that's specified is not found, then CodeGen simply ignores the token, removes it from the output file, and carries on without issuing an error.